So, it's been nearly 10 years since I first started Fan War, and over the years, my show has changed quite a lot. What was once a hobby done by a kid in early high school for the purposes of fun is now a full-time hobby I do and constantly think about. But now that nearly a decade has passed, I wanted to go back and look at some of the older episodes and see if I still agree with the outcomes. And where else to start than with the season that started it all? Season 1. A lot of people tell me this season really sucks. It is easily the worst season of my show. And yep, I think out of all the seasons we've had thus far, this is the one that holds up the worst. The animation, the sound quality, not even the research can be considered good. Not back then, and especially not now. I don't even think I can call this a season anymore, but just an unintentional guidebook on how not to make a versus show. As you can hear in my voice, I have come to really hate a lot of these older episodes. Why? Because I've learned a lot since then, and I am still improving my craft. But back then, I could care less about that stuff. The coolness of the matchup was more important to me than the actual research. And now you understand why I see this as the worst season. It may have been for fun, but crap. I feel stupid for ever thinking a lot of these would actually hold water in the long run. And it didn't help that I was both very naive and, dare I say it, egotistical about my show, that I never understood why Death Battle worked as well as it did. It is for this reason why I renamed my show like I did, simply because I wanted to put distance between the older episodes and the newer, let's be honest, better episodes. I think it's clear my standards for research and selecting matchups are a lot better now than they were back then. And I make damn sure to get myself acquainted with any character I bring into Fan War. I guess that's the best way for me to look at it. What I did wrong and what I can learn from it, and how I can improve in the future. And hopefully, those who watch this can learn from it as well when coming to make their versus shows. So, without further ado, let's begin this quest to see just how well this, let's be honest, ancient season holds up.
Give me something to smash.
Yes. The fight that started it all. And the fight that made me want to start Fan War to begin with. The original, the first, the oldest episode of Fan War. Until I accidentally deleted it the same day I uploaded episode 2, then re-uploaded it subsequently, so episode 2 is now listed as being older. In any case, I personally don't know how to feel about this one. I mean, I still think that Hulk can defeat Doomsday, but if that's the case, I really doubt it'd be for the same reasons I previously listed. I mean, can you blame me for thinking that? With all the new information regarding both, this is an episode I'd happily do a remake of, especially since its remastering is in desperate need of a remaster. But since I lambasted Death Battle's take on this fight, and just having the Hulk win in general would make me look like a hypocrite, I probably shouldn't touch this fight again. And I'll be honest, I probably overplayed the Hulk and underplayed Doomsday, just like how Death Battle downplayed the Hulk and overplayed Doomsday. Regardless, I am 50-50 on this fight, because nowadays, I can't say for sure who'd win this fight, as there are legitimate arguments for both winning. As of right now, I am iffy on this fight. My first episode where I can safely say the research was piss. Sure, if Jason's got his hands on her, Carrie is as good as dead. But that's a huge if, because Carrie's psychokinetic powers gives her two huge advantages over Jason. She had complete control of the battlefield and complete control over her opponent. Carrie could decide how close Jason could get to her, pin him down, crush him under heavy debris. He's no match for the power of Carrie. And while I did say he has experience with people like Carrie, that shouldn't even matter, because that same character treated him like a rag doll. The only time she was ever touched by Jason was when she was distracted. Other than that, it was Jason at the receiving end throughout their entire fight. Even with that said, she's nowhere near the same level of destructive power that Carrie's capable of. Let me ask you this. Do you think Jason, an undead man with a machete, would be able to stand up against someone who could do this? Or this? Or this? So yes, while Carrie is unable to permanently kill Jason, she is more than capable of tearing him limb from limb to the point he is unable to do anything. So, as of right now, I declare this episode inaccurate.
Welcome to the nightmare in my head.
From an episode where the slasher should have lost, to an episode where the slasher should have won. While I do think the Predator has a few advantages over Freddy, the latter still should have taken this fight fairly easily. Why? Because in the dream world, Freddy is basically a nigh omnipotent god who can do anything. Even if he can't figure out a fear the Predator would have and exploit it, that wouldn't stop him from just changing the dream from them being in Springwood to them being in a Xenomorph hive, a volcano, the sun, a black hole, or even the end of time. And if those are a little too extreme, he could just turn himself into a monster to eat the Predator, turn into a giant to step on the Predator, or even turn the Predator into a literal bug. This isn't a debate like Freddy vs. Wolverine. This is an SCP-096 vs. SCP-106 type of battle, where you're just putting a strong guy up against a god in his own world. There's no debate to be had. This fight was wrong, and I now declare this episode to be completely inaccurate. Ah yes, the first fight where I chose to do it not because I knew a lot about both characters, but because it looked cool. But despite that, I think the outcome of this fight actually holds up really well. Let me explain. Yes, Mega Man has the ability to copy his enemies, and is pretty freaking tough. But Iron Man is a more cunning, intelligent computer genius who deals with enemies almost identical to what Mega Man has to deal with. And with how many armors he has, he's certain to have some that counters Mega Man down to a point, if not completely destroy him. This may have to be a fight I revisit in the future. Mainly because I feel like I can do it a lot better now than I could back then. But as it is, I still agree that Iron Man wins. Well, at least for now. Dragon! Speaking of which, here's another fight I could do a lot better now than back then. Legend Spyro vs. Aang. What was originally one of the closest fan wars in the show's history is now once again up for debate. I feel like this is one of those fights that has a lot of good arguments going for both, and I could see either one winning, honestly. But the research here could have been done a lot better, and who knows, maybe the outcome would have been vastly different if I did it today. In truth, this is another episode I'm very 50-50 on.
Question. What happens when the irresistible force meets the immovable object?
Truth be told, I only did this fight because I already had Hulk fight Doomsday, and because it happened briefly in a comic book. And while I do feel as though his experiences with Doomsday would give Superman a leg up, I do believe the Juggernaut should have mopped the floor with Superman. And sure, Superman is tough and would certainly make things more difficult, but as seeing how Superman does have a rather healthy history of being beaten senselessly by powerful bruisers like Juggernaut, even when disregarding his link to magic entirely, I think it's safe to say Juggernaut would take this fight with a high amount of difficulty.
Someone's always watching me. Someone's always there.
Sure, Slender Man is like this universal constant that can never die until everyone in the universe forgets him, but it's the Hell Spawn that defeated both God and Satan versus some random demon who stalks people. You do the math.
What kind of monster are you?
The Wolverine.
With this fight, my opinions of it have not really changed. Scorpion, while powerful, has never shown the needed strength to even slightly scratch adamantium. Nor does he have anything that could take care of Wolverine's healing factor. Add to that Wolverine's prior experience with ninjas, pyrokinetics, and teleporters, I think it's safe to say Wolverine would still take this fight.
It's alive! It's alive! It's alive!
Truth be told, I think this debate is a lot more intricate than just Dracula can hypnotize the monster. This is a battle that has the chance of going on forever, maybe even ending in a draw. Because neither have access to or are able to exploit any discernible weaknesses the other has. And the only time the Bela Lugosi version of Dracula ever hypnotized a monster was when it was already asleep and it needed to be waken up. In truth, this is an episode I'd love to return to one day. But as is, this battle is really 50-50 for me.
There goes Tokyo, Godzilla!
Given how the rematch went, it's obvious that I think Ultraman should have won. And I really did underplay him and overplay Godzilla. I don't think I need to explain anymore, because there's already an episode out there that does this far better. On to the next one.
Judgment Day, baby!
It's a battle between a powerful cyborg that took 2 demigods to destroy versus a robot that struggles to defeat regular people. Once again, you do the math. Okay, but seriously, Fulgor is just a beast in battle. He has everything he needs to terminate the Terminator, and there's basically nothing Arnold could do to stop him. Put simply, both are dangerous machines, but Fulgor was built to last. The Terminator loses this fight, plain and simple.
Mushroom Kingdom, here we come!
Mario should have won. There's no other way to put it. What Rayman can do, Mario can literally do better, and with his vast array of power-ups, he's really got a lot more going for him than old Armless over there. This episode is inaccurate, it was clearly done by someone who didn't know what they were doing. Let's just move on.
I'm a fucking god of war.
While this battle would be close, in hindsight, while Dante was a powerful fighter, Kratos does have more ways to put Dante down than the latter did. And while Dante may have experience fighting all kinds of demons and monsters, Kratos not only has that same experience, but he was also stated by the official developers as being able to scale to the gods of actual Greek mythology. Which means, if we take that statement seriously, he does contend with the literal gods of creation. And that's on top of him having at least a few more centuries worth of fighting experience. I don't know, I feel like the ghost of Sparta could very well make the devil cry. But who knows, maybe I should redo this fight and actually see if that statement of mine holds any water. Let me know in the comments below. Until then, yeah, I think the God of War wins. But take that statement with a few grains of salt.
Two heads are better than one. The more, the merrier, you bet.
Well, this was a fight. In truth, when it came to this fight, I had no reliable sources to work with outside of the friends that were helping me with it. Ultimately, I don't have much to say about this episode, simply because, well, there's not much to this episode. I'm really iffy on this fight nowadays, but I feel like this fight should have gone to Idol. After all, one is technically still a mortal, while the other is a demigod who can rival actual gods. But with that said, it's a fight I'm actually 50-50 on, but maybe leaning towards the loser being the one who should have won.
Amphibian.
Reptile.
No. Reptile.
Nothing has changed about this fight in any way. Though in hindsight, I shouldn't have been open about how much I was downplaying the Lizard. Even with their newer moveset and powers, the Lizard is still just a stronger, faster, and smarter opponent than Riptor. It'd basically end the same way Baraka vs. Riptor did. Just give the former mind control over all reptilian life. That right there would end the fight in a moment's notice. Moving on.
And I'm Kanye West. We love the earth.
I don't have much to say about this one, but I will admit this is a fight that happened way too early, and is probably one of the episodes I should do a rematch of. Other than that, something in my heart is telling me that Mogo should have probably won, but who knows.
You are no bounty hunter. You are death.
Yeah. In hindsight, I really downplayed Captain America for this fight. But much like Goro vs. Idol, I didn't have any reliable sources to work off of. You know, outside of what Death Battle or the wikis said. Deathstroke would certainly be a tough opponent for Cap, but I don't know if it's necessarily a fight he'd win. I don't have much else to say. This will probably be a fight I have to redo in the future, so for now, I'll say I'm 50-50 on it.
Battletoads.
This is probably the most unique battle out of all of Season 1. In my opinion, of course. I do think this is one of those battles I should redo at some point. But in my opinion, this was a tricky one to figure out if it's accurate or not, as the Battletoads really do have different things working for them. Zitz is the well-rounded leader, Rash is the fastest and most experienced of the Toads, and Pimple is physically the strongest of them all. But I do think Zitz should have won, simply because his arsenal does have a few more options to finish the other Toads off with. And yes, while Pimple could overwhelm Zitz and Rash, all three of them are going after each other at once. So it's very likely the Toad with the more technologically advanced powers has the better chance at winning. But given that there'd be a lot going on in this fight, I'll just put this down to as potentially inaccurate. For right now, I am very iffy on this fight.
Run! It's Godzilla! It looks like Godzilla, but due to international copyright laws, it's not. Still, we should run like it is Godzilla! Though it isn't.
Okay, I'm going to have to correct myself on something first. Though Zilla Jr. is the nickname given to the monster by the fans, by copyright law, the monster we see in the 1998 movie and series is still legally called Godzilla. So yes, Zilla Jr. by technicality is not the appropriate name. So, from here on out, I'll just be referring to Zilla Jr. as just Godzilla. Other than that, I still say Godzilla wins. Godzilla fights all kinds of disgusting and powerful mutants in his TV show at least once a week, while Varan is literally just like one of those monsters he fights. Big, scary, large teeth and claws, and has no legitimate feats of his own. To sum it up, the more powerful, more accomplished monster would just destroy the weaker, less accomplished monster. End of story, moving on.
Your mama's so fat! Not even Thanos could snap her out of existence!
Yes, Death Battle made it a very accepted conclusion that Darkseid wins. But I personally feel as though there's a lot more to this fight than just I exist outside the multiverse. Thanos is an individual who had conquered every god conceivable and even became reality itself. However, Darkseid also exists outside of reality and has been around a lot longer than Thanos. This is a fight I am personally very iffy about, specifically regarding the outcome. Especially since there are times where the Infinity Stones do work outside of their native universe. The only real notable case of this not happening is when Darkseid tried to use them in the DC universe. As well, I personally do think I did this fight, like so many others this season, way too early. This is once again another fight I should do a rematch of, but just like Hulk vs. Doomsday, I shot myself in the foot on that one.
What? You think I'm a robot?
I made a whole nother video talking about why Optimus vs. Gundam Wing Zero is bad. Go check it out. I'm done acknowledging its existence.
Go, go, Power Rangers!
Yeah, not much has changed about this. My reasons for Red Ranger winning are no longer the same, but I still do believe the physically stronger, tougher, and faster Power Ranger with the more powerful weapons would easily take this fight. Not much else to say, but I still agree with it.
Every woman who cries out, "Dear God, what is that thing?" will echo in your perfect ears.
Now that time has passed, I have to say, I really disagree with my verdict on this. Yes, the blob can feed off of the thing like it can any other creature. But the thing is still a parasite that assimilates the biomass of other creatures. The blob, even though it's basically a walking glob of stomach acid, is still very much an organic being. The thing, albeit with a lot of trouble, would without a doubt assimilate the blob into its own form, just like every other creature it meets. This battle is inaccurate. Moving on to the next one.
Recycle, reduce, reuse, and close the loop.
I'll be honest, I really underplayed Captain Planet in this episode. While the Toxic Avenger may have had access to Captain Planet's weakness, there are other factors that do come into play in a fight like this. For example, the Toxic Avenger's best strength feat is throwing ahead from New Jersey to Japan, while Captain Planet can casually lift and carry several large buildings without issue. The Toxic Avenger has his fists and mop, but at the same time, Captain Planet has an unknown amount of control over the world itself. To summarize, the Toxic Avenger may have access to Captain Planet's greatest weakness, but that really doesn't matter much since Captain Planet stomps Toxie in almost every other way. Which is why I declare this episode inaccurate. Possibly, I mean, this is Captain Planet we're talking about.
Oh shit! A rat!
This is, once again, a battle I feel very split on, and obviously another fight I did way too early. The programs I used certainly did not help either, and it ended up making a martial arts battle slow, choppy, and everything one shouldn't be. As for the winner, like I said, I feel like with updated research, this could go either way. Both of them are seasoned masters, who should roughly be around the same age and have around the same amount of experience. Once again, there's not much to say here, but I just feel very iffy about this fight. Once again, there's not much to say here, but I just feel very iffy about this fight.
Well, that is blood.
Back for Blood 1. The first season finale, and the first of many Back for Bloods ever since. For any of those who might not be aware, which I highly doubt, instead of going for a huge, big, final, spectacular battle each season, you know, like what Death Battle does, I instead opt to have an extended episode with 2 battles featuring 4 returning characters. And this is the first episode like that. As for Back for Blood 1, the first fight we have is Iron Man vs. Gundam Wing Zero. As you could imagine, it suffers from the same issues as the previous Gundam episode. But if I had to go on a gut feeling, I feel like Iron Man should have won. I don't know, this is just a guess. I really don't know anything about Gundam. Don't at me. As for Thanos vs. Spawn, once again, this was a battle that happened way too early. After all, a battle between a guy who defeated both God and Satan versus a mad titan with power over all reality should be a really interesting match. One that was wasted for a Season 1 battle of Fan War. As for who would win, I'm not going to discredit Spawn, but I don't think he should have killed Thanos as easily as he did. This is probably one of those fights that really, and I mean really, needs a lot of in-depth research to determine a victory. As for the episode as a whole, I say it's just a really iffy collection of fights. And that was Season 1, the worst season of my show. I'm just going to say it, expect a lot of Season 1 characters to return in the future. Mainly because I know I did a lot of these people dirty the first time around. And now that I look back at the season, I can safely say I know where to go in the future. I must always make sure to get to know more about the characters I'm talking about. And now that I have the means of researching these characters properly, I can feel more comfortable in finding a verdict. If any of what you heard in this video makes you want to unsubscribe, fair enough. I clearly had no idea what I was doing when I started this show. But at least take heart in knowing I'm always improving. And if you really want to introduce someone to my show, at least let it be something from Season 3 or later. I'd like to give a huge shout out to Undead Sonic 89 for his courteous $30 pledge on Patreon. Through his support, both this channel and my second one can keep making bigger and better projects. Thank you tremendously for your support.